Alright, well I'm going to go over really quick how to install the rear suspension on a Burley suspension upgrade. I just got the regular Bilstein shocks. I didn't get the Fox shocks, so it'll be a little bit different if you got the Fox shocks, but this is what Burley told me to do. So this right here is just the base plate. The sole purpose of this piece is to hold these hind joints in place. So he said all you have to do is just kind of eyeball it over the center post. You can get pretty close with your eyeball, but just center it over that and make sure that this is perpendicular to the actual plate right here. And what I did on the other side is I just traced this opening on each side, so I had a mark, and then I placed a dot with a Sharpie inside the center of each mark, and then you want to drill in those marks. Burley said that the correct size, the very precise size, is 7/16, but he typically goes 1 or 2 drill bit sizes up from that size if you wanted to give it a little bit extra wiggle room, just so you can get it perfectly lined up. The drill bit size that I'm using is 15/32. It kind of took me a little bit to find it. I just ended up buying one on Amazon just because my Ace hardware didn't have it. So just like I said, Burley says the precise measurement on the drill bit is 7/16 for those hind joints to go through here. But you can use all the way up to a 15/32, which is what I did. After you drill the 2 holes in the trailing arm, this is where the base plate goes, and this is what the piece looks like that goes into these 2 holes. You want to make sure that the flat piece is going towards the front of the vehicle and the rounded is towards the rear. So also, before you put it in, you want to make sure that these 2 hind joints are already tightened in on this section, and you want to make sure the heads of the bolts are on the inside of this piece, so that way once it's in, if these lock nuts were to ever come off, the center post right here would keep these bolts in line, and it wouldn't make the bolts fall out if these lock nuts were to ever come out. So it's just a safety factor to put them on the inside like this. Like I said, you want to tighten these before you do your final installation. So you go ahead and put these in, and that's how the bottom section is going to sit right there. And this is where the spring, this is the bottom spring perch, so the spring will then sit in right here. And it's tricky. There's 2 bolts that go obviously on the bottom of each one of these hind joints. The inside one over here is pretty tricky to get to if you don't take out the CV and boot. I didn't do it on the other side. I just dealt with the nightmare of trying to get back there and tighten it up. I was able to do it, but it definitely wasn't a cakewalk. If you have a ratcheting box end wrench, I would go ahead and use that. It's a 16mm right here, so I'd go ahead and use that. Like I said, I of course cannot find my 16mm box end wrench that's ratcheting, so that's why it was a little trickier for me. But if you were to have that, I suspect it to be pretty much. Now moving up to the top spring perch, you're going to take off the stock bushing, whatever, spring pad, whatever it's called. Take all those off. And on the stock post right here, there's going to be 4 small welded tack points around. You need to file those down a little bit, or I just use a grinder real quick and grinded those down, just so this piece from Burley can fit over. You can see right here it fits flush, but if you turn it, the angle kind of changes. You want it to fit perfectly like that. And the way that this works is the aluminum threaded pipe goes over it. There's a little notch in the aluminum pipe that sits perfectly in with the regular pipe, and then that slides over, and that's the top spring perch, and you can adjust the height by turning this thing, and the spring just simply sits right in there. Once it's all in place, this is what it'll look like. Like I said, you can adjust this aluminum washer up here. You can just twist it around that threaded pipe, and you can lift or lower the rear of your vehicle. What's nice about the Burley suspension is they just use regular springs. There's no specialized springs like these Synchro springs or Vanagon springs. You can adjust the strength of the spring if you want based on what you're running on the back. Like if I have a heavy bumper, I have this Subaru conversion diesel in the back as well, so with the stock suspension the rear was sagging pretty low compared to the front, so I told Burley that I wanted a little bit heavier springs in the back, and he simply just got stronger springs for me, so it kind of helps offset whatever weight or accessories you might have. Just something to keep in mind. I absolutely love the way they look, and I haven't driven it yet, but people that have them love the way they feel, so it's definitely something to consider.